Hello. Hello. I'm not sure if that's good enough quality. I see that we're on very bad quality. Yeah, fingers crossed that's working. Okay. Hopefully you can hear and see me. I put it down in quality, so maybe that makes it better. But hello, nice to be back with you. I hope you had a nice summer holiday, a nice break. I had a nice break. I was also doing a retreat, so it wasn't like all a break for me. I had a really beautiful time doing my retreat, or the retreat. Yeah, really beautiful people. Feels like a long time ago now. A lot of things have happened since then. That was in the beginning of August. It's really beautiful. And then I came back to France, and then my mum came to visit, which was also really beautiful. So I've had a very nice month off, half month working, half month off. So let me just tell you a little bit about this live stream if this is the first event that you've been to. I do these live streams every Sunday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. French time. I tell you at French time because everybody's time changes throughout the year, and you might be watching this in winter time, and then if I said GMT, it would be a different time. So 6 p.m. French time is currently GMT plus 2, but that will change. And if you want to ask questions, you do that through Skype. So you befriend me on Skype, and my address is in the box below. It's Lisa Cairns 12. And then you can send me messages. I only answer the questions during my live stream. So if you send it to me outside my live stream, I don't respond or reply to it. It would be too much. And sometimes I don't always get round to completing all the questions. So what was I saying? Yeah, so also in the live stream I don't finish off questions as well, so sometimes they don't get answered. I just can't get around to all of them. And you join my live stream simply by joining my YouTube channel. So you go to my YouTube channel at 6 p.m. French time. If you subscribe and you have notifications on, if you click the bell and you've got your notifications set, then you'll get an email every time I go live. Otherwise, you just have to remember it. But also the video is up there afterwards. In my live stream, I tend to jump around different subjects. I I speak to different people, sometimes sit in silence, sometimes talk about my dog or not talk about things about non-duality, primarily because I'm sitting here by myself in a room, and it's hard always to stay focused on the subject. If it was like, if I had an audience around me, then you'd stay more focused because you'd be looking at people and you'd be interacting with people. When you're sitting here by yourself, it's easy to diverge onto other subjects. So we have a resolution for that, because some people ask for more concise clips. And there is another channel out there. It's not my channel. It's not run by me. I don't do it. It's called Video Clips Lisa Cairns, and you can go to that channel. You can subscribe, and on there are edited talks. So you just he edits every talk that I do, and then he gives it little titles. So 4-minute or 8-minute segments, like the introduction or bits in the middle. So if you prefer to listen to the edited version of Lisa, which I understand, because like sometimes I do go off on ones, then you can do that. I also like to leave up the live version because I think it's really beautiful to offer that as a sharing for people. You're also welcome to donate for these talks. You can find that on my website. It's not compulsory and you don't have to. It's totally up to you if you want to donate for the talks. And also, which I would recommend, is putting a thumbs up to the video. I never in the past have asked for this. I've done these talks like for 8 or 9 years and I never ask for it. And then recently some reason, like another non-duality speaker came up, and I could see that they had like 200-300 likes and maybe like 5 dislikes, whereas normally on my videos I don't get so many likes. I think predominantly because I don't ask for it. And if you want the videos to be shared, it's an important part of the Google algorithm is to have likes on the video. So if you want Google to carry on supporting like non-duality or this channel, then you have to do things like and comment. It's just part of the system and the way it goes. And it's really beautiful that non-duality is available on YouTube. So I think it's a good thing if you could take time to do that. I do think it's a good thing. And also, there's so few female non-duality teachers on speaking out there. And when I also was searching for something on the internet, and I saw like the first couple of pages were predominantly men. And so you've got to put effort into doing these things if you want female speakers on non-duality to be more popular or to be more widespread. You're the audience, you decide. And and it's totally down to you. So if you don't like these talks, you could just be like, but the like is just not to show popularity or how much people like it. It's also the way that Google works out the algorithm of what to share and what not to, and what to repress and hide. I'm sure you guys know that. So as you might know, I always like to do the talks in like 5 or 10 minutes of silent sitting. So if you would like to join me in silent sitting. And it just means doing nothing. I know to the person that's always busy, it's like, what is the point of just sitting there? Like my friend always used to say, most humans think they're human doers rather than human beings. It's just beautiful to learn to be happy in your own company without activity. What a gift. So the subject today is surrender. Oh. Sorry, that was a little loud. So the subject that I would like to talk about today is surrender. So what does it mean to surrender? So what happens is that when you were about 3 or 4 years old, something called identification happened. And that means that you identified with your name, your body, your past, your future, your ideas, your feelings, your thoughts. And there was this like grabbing onto it and identification. Prior to that age, you'd not been anything. Like if you ask like a 1-year-old, who are you? The baby's like, doesn't know who it is. It just is. And it's not anything. It just is boundless. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't have an identity. You could say it's nothing, but yet it is everything. Some people would like to say it's in pure consciousness, which means the same to me as nothing and everything. It's just this simple looking that's everywhere, this experiencing of life. And then at about the age of 2 or 3 or 4 years old, this identification with the personality structure happens. And there is this belief that that is who you are, and a forgetting that who you were prior to being that. So you weren't always that. So it's a forgetting that there was something there prior to you, prior to your ideas, your thoughts, your belief systems, your ideologies, your likes, your dislikes. And then this identification happens. It's like sticky tape, and it sticks onto everything, and it's always trying to make up an identity. And it gets obsessed with maintaining pleasure and avoiding pain. And so it wants to make the identity the best identity it can possibly be, whatever it holds up to be those ideals, whether it holds it up to be compassionate or loving or really successful in its work field, to be funny, to be likable, to be popular. So it wants to be the best possible version of itself, and it sets all these ideas of what you need to be. So there's this identification with it, and then there is too much investment in pleasure and investment in your sense of self. And none of this is consciously happening, it's all happening unconsciously. And it's one of those things that unfortunately can become problematic, because the more that you try to maintain a pleasure, so the more that you try to hold on to a pleasure, the more you actually lose the pleasure, the more that you kill the pleasure. Something we like about doing new things is the spontaneity of it and the innocence, and your reaction is totally new and fresh. Whereas when you've done things many times before, it's no longer new and fresh, your response to it. And then what happens is you keep trying to get that new experience again. So you keep trying to hold on to it rather than seeing it for what it is. So if it's going on a walk, like the same walk every day or something, rather than experiencing that new and fresh in the moment, you're comparing it to what you've experienced in the past and judging whether it's better or worse, and then also judging if it's similar to that experience. So say if you're with a new person, there's always this judgment going on and this comparison, and what your mind is looking for is the most amount of pleasure for you, which is a natural thing for the body. That's the wisdom of the body, is to move towards pleasure and to avoid pain, like to not run into the fire or to not get eaten by the lion, to sit in the sunshine when it's warm, and to avoid freezing cold temperatures. So that's wisdom of the body, like moving towards pleasure. It's how the body learns. It learns also by getting pleasure from reinforcement of the parents. When the child does something good, it gets pleasure. Parents say, well done, and it's like, ba-bing, 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 ba-bing. It's a pleasure. You could imagine it like, you know, those bing signs that when you're on a game on your iPhone, it's like ding, ding when you do something right, and there's a nice feeling with it. But when you identify with becoming that person, the pleasure becomes too important, and you begin to live too much in your thinking mind rather than in actual experience. So it's too much in what you've experienced before, what you're going to experience in the future. And what it does when you live too heavily in the third eye chakra is it makes your experience dead. It deadens the rest of the senses. So it's always about comparison. It's not as good as it was before. It's better than it was before. It lacks than before, rather than actually experiencing it for what it is, like feeling the feeling of the temperature on your skin, the feeling that it makes you feel on your feet as you walk, the sight of the sunshine that day, the sound of the trees that day. And rather than actually experiencing that, you're experiencing your imagined idea of what it could be, should be, you want it to be. And what you want it to be is to live up to your ideals of pleasure. So this is what identification does. It's not so much the identity that's the problem, the personality structure that's the problem. It's the identification with that, and then this moving from living in your body and living in the experience to living in this thinking area of your brain and constantly looking at everything through thoughts. Because that's what happens when you identify. As soon as you identify, you are always imagining yourself. So that's why it's connected to the thinking process. You have this like image of what you look like and how you're interacting with the world, what other people think of you, if you're better or worse or not as good or more or less. And this thinking mind, the more that it's invested in, the more it gets out of line with your body. So then your body has natural impulses or responses to situations, and your thinking mind shines that. So say your body's in a situation where it feels that somebody's being inappropriate to it, the thinking mind might be focused on that you want their friendship or that you want to be liked by them. And therefore, what you actually feel or your intuitive feeling in the body is ignored. So you begin to live more and more up here, and you cut off from your organic, natural feelings of the body. And you also cut off from what you're actually experiencing around you. The feeling of the sofa, the sights, the sounds, the experiences. So you're actually cutting off from life, and you're beginning to live in a recorded image of yourself. Which is quite an amazing thing that a human can do that. Like, just on the practical sense, if you look at it, it's really amazing that you can have such complex experiences. But what it does is it makes your life feel dead. And actually, your very experience of love, who you truly are, of life, who you truly are is love. So your actually very experience of what's happening right now is love and intimacy and everything you've ever looked for. But the imagined person, the thinking person, your image of yourself, thinks that it should be having something so much more grand, like going to big parties or being in 5-star hotels or having Chanel perfume, whatever it might be, or a Gucci bag, or a pedigree dog or cat of some kind. Chihuahua. So what's spoken about in non-duality is it's looking at that identification and seeing that everything you take yourself to be isn't really you. And at some point there is just this energetic movement that happens back to what is, back to who you truly are, which is this moment, and it's energetic rather than being this limited thing that's always in a timeline and sort of stuck in your mind and very limited. And it makes it feel like you are centralized And it is an energetic movement. It's not intellectual. You don't intellectually get this. You can have many intellectual awakenings which shift things and change things, but it's an energetical shift from being bounded to not being bounded. It's remembering yourself. So what is surrender? So surrender to me isn't the person as such surrendering. Although the effect of waking up might be that the person surrenders to an extent, but what actually surrenders is the identification with the person. So it's actually something sort of in between, in a way, everything, consciousness, who you truly are, and the person. It's like this in between that makes consciousness, makes your essence, make what is feel limited and narrow and contained inside your sense of self. And it's a breaking free of that. And that can happen spontaneously. Like nobody really knows how it happens. It can happen from listening to non-duality. It can happen from doing lots of practice on yourself. It's an unknown phenomena of how that happens. But actually the whole of life is an unknown phenomena, so don't get too tripped up on that. Like just me speaking now, or me looking at you, or me moving my hands, it's unknown how that happens. We say, in order to communicate, it's Lisa speaking, and I'm happy to take responsibility for that. If I suddenly were to say really inappropriate things, I would be the one that would be reprimanded for that and maybe banned from YouTube. So I'm happy to take responsibility on the human level. But actually directly in the moment, and even if we think about things in time, we don't know how it happens. Speaking is simply happening out of my mouth with a feeling that it's coming from Lisa, but it's actually simply happening. It's appearing out of the mouth. And you are hearing it, and you don't actually know how you're hearing it. You claim that it's you that's hearing it, and I claim that it's me that's speaking, but actually in the essence of it, it's a total mystery as to what's happening. Like I'm not sitting here inside my brain being like, squeeze the voice box to the left, squeeze it to the right, make this sound. Although if I think to myself, stop speaking, with that it's really divine and beautiful, that life is really mysterious. There's so much more to it than what we realize. Or so much more to it than our limited way of thinking. So let's move to doing things. I'm also not opposed to you doing things in order to relax the person, but just know that it's never that person that wakes up. It's an energetic shift from being bound into that person to everything, and that's not limited to that person. That's not the person doing it. I know it might sound like it's you doing it because our language is only set up on subject and object, so whenever I say something it seems like it needs a subject in order to do it. But that's not true. It's such a wonderful subject, this. And then if we look in time, so if we actually look in the timeline of free will and choice, like even in time, we don't know when something began. Like when did your interest in non-duality begin? You can formulate a story which seems to make sense, but really you don't know when anything begins or ends. Like when do you find that beginning moment? Was it when your parents made love? Was it when your grandparents made love? Was it when you were born? Was it when you got hurt by your first lover, which led you to ask questions, which led you to meet this person and led you to meet that person and then led you to ask questions about this subject? So in these talks, I do two different things now. When I was younger and speaking, I just spoke about non-duality. And I feel like now, over the years, I've become more clear and more able to speak about it. And I distinguish between waking up and this absolute reality, and then the human reality and wise things to do for the human. Not for the human to wake up, because the human doesn't wake up, but to relax the human and that's always what's happened in non-duality. That's what happened to me, is this relaxation of the personality and the character. And I think that's a very wise thing to do. And the non-duality will happen when it happens, because it's not in your hands. Even doing the other stuff isn't really in your hands, but it appears it is. If I say to you, let's sit in silence for 10 minutes, then it appears as if you can do that. What I find a lot of speakers, and myself included when I first started speaking, is they mix up the relative world, the human world, the personality structure, with the absolute world. And this can be helpful in some ways, because it breaks attachment to the person, but it also can be destructive, because the person misinterprets this, and the person tries to not be a doer, the person tries to be free, the person tries to not take responsibility, or not take guilt or shame or whatever it is, but to not be these things. And I think the best way in which to deal with the person is not to deny and want to not be things. I think it's actually to really acknowledge and see the person for what it is. I think what happens in the personal world, not just in non-duality, but in society, is there's a lot of deception, lying, and ignorance around what it is that you want, what it is that you need, where it is that you want to go. And in that, like, lots of messes are made because there's just lack of clarity. And I think there is a way to become more in tune with the body and let the body speak more than the imagined idea of yourself speak, so your identity speak. So this imagined person that you believe yourself to be, that you think's got to be the best person ever and always got to be a success. So there can be a less of a reaction to that, and more coming back to what your truthful feelings are about subjects. When somebody crosses your boundary, when you want to move towards someone, when you're too afraid to move towards someone, and being able to put voice to that and pay attention to the detail of it. And I think that our bodies are inherently wise, as long as you're honest. A lot of the time people aren't honest. You know, they're sitting there and they're like, have a good day. Oh, what a wonderful person you are. And then internally they're feeling lots of hate and rage, but they can't even recognize that. If you ask them if they were angry, they'll be like, no, I'm not angry at all. And then somebody doesn't speak to them, or somebody doesn't answer the phone quick enough, you know, and they're on the phone to India for their bank or something, they're like, oh, hello friend, have a nice day. How are you today? And then when no one else is like, no, I'm a very happy person. So I think people are sometimes unconscious about what they think or feel. Just to be clear, I'm not implying that you need to be a perfect person in any way when I'm talking about like looking into the personal self. I think that humans are humans, and we've got our shortcomings as a race. Like we still have deep embedded competition in us. And but I think it should be acknowledged rather than denied. You know, in spirituality, we're told competition is bad, and rather than exploring that and admitting it, we just try to push it away and deny it. And then this will create passive aggression. The scorpion tail, when you're not looking, the scorpion tail will come out. There's lots of things. There's lots of beautiful things about humanity, but there is also our predator nature, which is competition, rivalry, wanting the best, wanting pleasure, laziness. And then there's beautiful things about us of empathy, intelligence, courageousness, adventurers, explorers. So to me, surrender is this surrender that's the middle bit. It's not a personal thing. It's this energy which is making that who you are. It's claiming it. Me, 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 me. That's me, that's me, that's me. Where it's not who you are. There's something else I wanted to talk about today, because we're back in the Brexit chaos again. There's like another hard deadline on the 31st of October, which makes it very ambiguous for people that don't live within their own, within the country that they were born in. So I live in the EU, but I don't live in the UK, and yeah, there's a lot of like challenges if it's a hard exit to people's rights. It's also for people's jobs, but it doesn't really affect my job a little bit, but not too much. But it predominantly affects the rights and what I can and can't do. And it's not as bad as some people, so it's not that bad, but it just is that you can't really plan because you have no idea what will come on the 31st. Like as in that you can travel, that you can, yeah, there's lots of different things. And so today, the last couple of days, I've been watching every so often in my breaks, and I wasn't working, I was clicking on to watch Brexit debates in the Parliament. And you know what? It just really came clear to me that the way that we treat non-duality speakers is exactly the same as the way that we treat politicians. Like if you've been around non-duality a long time, or this subject a long time, you'll realize how people have very strong opinions about what's a good teacher and what's a bad teacher. And when I was watching the House of Commons argue, it just reminded me of the way that people argue about non-duality and how attached we are to this idea of good and bad, but how limited we are in our abilities, because they just keep going back. Like one side puts an argument how they're right, and then the other one puts the argument how they're right. And then it just keeps going backwards and forwards. And you just listen to it like tennis, and they keep saying the same things but in different ways. And I just thought how limited that is a way of thinking, that we only have this is right and this is bad. So in politics, we've only got right and left, which is the same as you and me, and good and bad, and night and day, and black and white. So we've got politics that mirror the way in which we think. And to someone like me, I'm not so keen on the extreme on the right, but I'm not also on the extreme right or the right. I'm more okay with more central right, but I'm also maybe not always so keen on extreme left as well, like maybe a bit more to the middle left as well. But when you hear them argue, you think there's so many other ways in which you could look at things, but we don't have the possibility to think in that way. So we don't have the possibility to think of it in like 4 different ways simultaneously. It's either one is right and the other is wrong. But it's very black and white, and in a way it's very limiting. Whereas if we have bigger brains and more capacity to think in multiple ways and maybe in multiple dimensions, you could see it with so many more possibilities. And if now you're thinking, but how, and you want me to describe it to you, I can't describe it to you because we haven't invented that way of thinking. Like it's very narrow, like it's like this is good and this is bad, and they just keep arguing. And this is the same as what people do with non-duality. Like you've got your favorite non-duality teachers and you'll fight to the end. So we've got like maybe the extreme right or maybe left, I don't know, like something like Neo-Advaita. And then on the other side, we've got like really like dogmatic and religious Advaita. So maybe that's like on the extreme right and that's on the extreme left. And then they like clash, just like the same in politics. And then you've got people all in between, and I'm most probably in between them both. And maybe a bit more towards, It's exactly the same as my politics. So say if we've got like neo-Advaita here and we've got extreme, like dogmatic religious stuff over here, I'm most probably here, I'm more on the left, but I'm more to the central. It's exactly the same as my politics. Isn't that really funny? And that's and that's the same for all of you. It's like a way in which we think, rather than like this all-inclusive way of thinking. So there isn't a right or wrong, but everything has its relevance. Like in certain circumstances that is true, and in certain circumstances that is not. But we can't see it like that because we're born and bred to have this really strong belief in good and bad. It comes from Christianity, I'm sure, but all other cultures most probably have it, of this idea that if you have a good life, you'll go to heaven. If you have a bad one, you'll go to hell. And then we're stuck in that way of thinking rather than trying to open the boxes to something that's radically new and a different approach to thinking. But maybe we'd need to invent a different language, because maybe inherent in our language it's stuck in the opposites. Like that's why we call it dualistic language. We don't call it foristic language. I don't even know how to say that, quadruple language. We call it dualistic language, so we're stuck in the opposites, where there's so much more possible to think about and to explore. Like we have all our feelings as well. Like thinking is just one sense. Like the way it all makes us feel, which we can't articulate, or the sensations of it, which we can't articulate. Maybe we can articulate the way we feel, but we can't articulate the sensations so well. Life is magic, not logic. It's so much more complex than our narrow minds or our limited minds can think of. Anything can happen. That's exciting, isn't it? Anything. Okay, so let's just make sure we're still streaming. I've been talking and then I find out it's been gone for like half an hour. We're still streaming. Okay, so if you have any questions, whoops, I just did something stupid there. What did I pull out? Oh, I'm back. There we go. Okay, so let's take some questions. Hello, beauty. Hello. Hello. Okay. You good girl? Are you? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Questions? This is from, hello, sweetie. You have to wait for dinner. You have to wait. Not dinner time yet. I know it is your dinner time, but I'm doing a stream, so you can't get fed now. This is from Kat. Hi, Lisa. I want to ask a question for YouTube, but to remain anonymous. Yes, you are remaining anonymous, Kat. For a while, I've been in emptiness and peace, which is very liberating and beautiful. There is still separation, emptiness and objects seen arising. Could you say anything about the shift from emptiness and fullness merging to one that you speak of, or any tips? Many thanks, Kat. I would just keep saying, to yourself, or not keep saying, but just to ask the question, who is in emptiness? Who is in emptiness? And just seeing that even your recognition or your understanding on the intellectual level that you're in emptiness is simply an idea that will come and go. In emptiness, it's free and expanded. There's nothing it wants and nothing it needs. It's right here. It's only the human that needs and wants things. And when there's a realization of this emptiness, then all of that becomes distant. Like a far-off dream. This stillness, this presence, this intimacy. So it's not that I really have any tips, it's just seeing that who knows it's in emptiness. And coming back to that big question mark, that big mystery. And it will play out exactly how it's meant to play. If you're meant to identify again, if you're not, it's in the perfect flow. Thanks, Kat, for your question. Hi, Justin. Hi, Lisa. I was wondering what you think dreams are. What do the characters and the situations represent for you? And what is the spiritual significance of dreams as related to Advaita? Thanks. So you've got two types of dreams. You've got the waking dream when you're awake. So right now you've got a dream of you that you believe yourself to be. And then you've also got these dreams at night where you are totally lost in this other world, this other dimension of you and getting things and not getting things. I think that dreaming at night is, they say scientifically that we dream at night in order to release the tensions of the day. So there's something happening when we dream, but I don't know what it is. It's something that happens. I kind of like the idea that it's the way of the brain renegotiating things in its brain, renegotiating events and situations that have happened to make them more palatable or bearable, or to release the stress of them. But then you've got this waking dream that's happening. Whereas all there is right now is this vastness, this emptiness that's alive, that's present, that's free, that doesn't belong to anyone, that isn't a size, that doesn't start or stop anywhere. So it's not that you as Justin are listening to me as Lisa, it's just here and present. And then you've got this image appearing of Justin, which is part of presence, it's part of what's happening. But then you have also, as well as the image of Justin arising and the feelings of Justin, you have this identification and this belief that that is who you are, that Justin is who you are, and that Justin dreams, and that Justin has experiences, whereas Justin is actually an experience happening, is a dream happening. Hey Susan. Hi Lisa. Hi Asborn. Hi Tanya. Hi Claudia. Dear Lisa, I don't know when to rely on wisdom or love. If I surrender to love, and I deeply feel it, I always end up with narcissistic men and suffer a lot. I'm laughing because I can relate to that as well. Like, I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing because I can relate to that. I have a theory as to why that happens. I started to rely more on wisdom. Like, this is not love, this is not good for you, it's just conditioning. But it feels I try to cut off love and it works only momentarily. Can you speak about that? Or what to do? I suspect the reason that you end up with narcissistic men, and this is the theory as to I've come up to why I had a couple of encounters with narcissistic men, was because love doesn't discriminate. Love doesn't care if they're narcissistic, if they're poor, if they're violent. It doesn't care, it embraces all of it. That's our nature. It doesn't see good or bad or right or wrong. It loves radically, unconditionally. So, and to me, what love is presence. Like, it loves everything in its presence. Everything. And when you are more attached to that, of course you're going to attract more narcissistic people, because you're focusing on the love rather than the filters that kick them out. And narcissistic people love people that don't have filters. They're attracted to them like a moth is attracted to light, or a bee to pollen, or a bear to honey. So they love that, because whatever they do, whatever they are, you love it unquestionably. Whether they're lying or being possessive, it's beautiful. Love, not loving them particularly, but to love and to see that there is no good or bad or right or wrong. If you want it to stop happening though, which I suspect you do, because narcissistic people are like a scorpion. They have a really beautiful side, like everything, where they will shower you with attention and, well, not shower you with attention, but shower you with affection and lots of beautiful words like love bombing, and be very exciting and different and outspoken and lots of wonderful things. But they're also like a scorpion, that at the end of the day, the only person that they really care about is themselves. And when I say themselves, I mean their own wants and desires. So they're only interested in their own wants and desires. So then the way to counteract that is to come in contact with the subtleties of the body and to act on them. Because your body is actually responding to them appropriately. So what I found when I attracted these narcissistic men into my life, and it was a great lesson. I always think that everything is a great way to help you bloom and to open. So, like, there were in my body was having warning signs. So even if you're not focusing on the mind that's saying this is conditioning, because the mind does cut off, like this is conditioning or they're doing this, and it does have issues. But if you focus more on the bodily sensation, you can feel that they're crossing your boundary. And you can feel that they're being inappropriate. And then you can put words to it. When you feel that, then you can say, yes, they're being inappropriate, they're being too pushy. And the problem is with narcissistic people in the spiritual world, if they are spiritual, Claudia, which I suspect they are, if you're into spirituality, then that's what you'll get into, is that narcissistic people will ruthlessly tell you that it's your own projections and issues that are coming out, and that they'll help you, guide you through it. So if you do have a response to them, which your body responds and says this isn't appropriate, the narcissistic person, if you express it to them, they will insist that it's your own mind and that it's a projection that you've got to work through. And And the way you know is that your body will tell you the truth in this situation. But in all instances, there's always this love that's available. This is the difficulty or the delicacy of it. Because in all instances, perfection. Like even with their narcissism or their arrogance or their hatred or jealousy or whatever it is, or perfectionism, they are the divine talking back to you. They're yourself talking back to you. And that's always there. Your body, though, knows. In the details of your body, it knows. If you pay attention when you meet them, so your attention's not just up here, it's in your whole body, your body will react appropriately. The only time your body won't react appropriately is that you can't read your body. And the reason that you can't read your body is that you don't know yourself on the human level. So you're not understanding what it is your body's saying or what it is you want or don't want. So you're not interpreting the sensations that are appearing correctly. And then you're living more in your ideas of what you think you should be or should have, or you're living more on a higher level. I don't know if that makes any sense, Claudia. If you want to call in again, you're welcome to. I had to cut you off before because I hadn't done my introduction. And I always like to do an introduction before I speak with someone. Please see how you feel. Hi, Glenn. Hi, Anu. Hello, dear Lisa. I have followed non-duality for about 12 years, and there is always underlying peace present. But can you talk a little bit being with other people? It's always energetically very painful and draining after being in company of others. Hi, Anu. There's so many reasons of why it could be uncomfortable for you in the company of others afterwards. You could be a really strong empath and very sensitive, so you're picking up the feelings of others. You could be unconscious of what your body says and wants, and therefore you're pushing your body into circumstances and situations in which it doesn't feel comfortable with. You could also find that when you're with other people, that presence is too intense. Like to be with someone, there's too much love and it's too intimate, and so you cut off and go into your head and go into stories and mentality. I find I have a conditioning around this with other people, and it's something that I've worked on a lot. Like I'm a strong empath, and so when I'm around other people it doesn't seem like it, but most of the time I'm trying to be so delicate to the other person, like not trying to bulldoze them or push myself on them or being inappropriate or bulldozing them. And maybe I'm kidding myself that I'm like that, but that's what it feels like internally. I don't know what it looks like from external. And when I'm with other people, I feel like I'm really sensitive. I think everybody is. Like it's really intimate being present with people, and it feels like other people in a way are too invasive energetically to me, like too much coming forward, and my empathy, then I feel empathy for them, so I struggle to tell them the truth that they're energetically overwhelming me or it's too much, because I don't want to hurt them. Like I want them to feel loved and it's secure. So it's like I don't want to bulldoze them with telling them that. I try to be really honest with people, and also a lot of people don't understand because they're not into the subject. So it's really like painful for them to hear that. And that's what it feels like for me, is that other people are too energetically invasive. Like they talk at you too much, or they talk too rapidly, or they want things from you too quickly. I prefer it if people are a lot more gentle when you meet them. And soft. So that's my conclusion with people, is that like it's too much. I feel like here I am, and I feel so open and there's so much love, and then people come up and it's like they want to jump inside of you. Not sexually, but like jump inside of you energetically. That sounds really weird because energetically it's all one, but it's like they want to... It's very hard to put into words that. That's my feeling. I think everyone else has different feelings. And I feel like that's not like the end of the story for Lisa in that dynamic, that there's still further I can go into that, because when you have that feeling, I'm sure what it attracts is that people try to come closer to you. Like in some bizarre way, like some people that are pushy love people that say no. They love people that like are energetically more distant. So people go towards that. Not all people, but some people that are very pushy. So I also feel like it's playing like attracts like. So there is also like, it's not just them. It's a dynamic that appears in Lisa that I'm still working through energetically, of how to deal with that. I found recently that lowering my attention into my solar plexus, rather than having it in my heart, like I have a lot of attention in my heart, like when I meet people, like lots of feelings of love and openness, and lowering it down to the sacral chakra and to the root chakra helps. Yeah, there's something that helps in that. So I don't know if that is helpful to you. I know. Thank you. Hi, Julio. Hi, hello, lovely Lisa. Glad to have you back. Hey, Julio. Nice to hear from you. Hi, Tanya. Tell her I can relate too. I also end up with men who are self-centered. Hey, Beth. Thank you for your answer. With pleasure. I love what you said about people coming on strong. I have noticed that when people come at me loud and strong, I feel a little unseen by them because I'm not in the loudness and the speediness. Lovely to see you again. Hey, Tane. Yeah. And I was also, because I've been watching politics the last couple of days and the way that my mind works, like I was comparing it to politics. So you've got so we got this left-wing politics, and left-wing politics is more on a superficial level. You could say it's more about having more social security for everybody, and then right-wing politics, it's more associated with having less social security, so less taxing for everybody, and the right wing would say that will make a more healthier society, to have less social security and less taxing, like people will be able to do business better and companies will thrive better. And this one says that companies will thrive better because people will be happier and feel more safe and more secure, and psychologically the society will be healthier. So you've got, and I sometimes think that, like when I was watching the politics today and I was watching the two different sides, I almost felt like the people that were sitting on the left, like some of it might be ego and might be like very unempathetic people, but I felt like the people that were sitting on the left were more these empathetic type of people, or more caring type of people, and more concerned about other people and more sensitive. And then you had the right that were more aggressive. So it felt like when the right people were speaking, what we have in English Parliament is they both face each other on these benches. And when the right spoke, it felt like energetically like they were screaming at the left. And it felt like the left were like it's not overwhelmed because they're used to it, but it felt like it's a different energy, like it's in a way too much for them. And then when the left argued back with the right, it felt like the right weren't even listening. It didn't even register anything. It was like nothing. And the right couldn't be as aggressive energetically. It didn't feel they were like, wah! And then the right didn't even pay attention to it. It was like nothing to them. And I think that our society is made up like of people that are on like a progressive scale between these two dynamics, because our personalities and our conditioning is all determined by the way we speak and interact predominantly, not completely, but predominantly. So a lot of it is made up by the way we relate to each other. And we'll relate to each other in subject-object, so in good and bad, in right and wrong, in left and right politics. And I feel like people are on a spectrum, and then people have relationships. So people from this more left side or more empathetic side have relationships with this side. And if you have two people, like this one can't even hear it. So if this one says you're being inappropriate, this one can't even hear it. But when this one says you're being inappropriate, it's like, you're being inappropriate. And this one like feels terrible and feels guilty and spends days trying to make up for it, because it's like, oh God, how could I make someone feel this? And then this person never feels heard by this person. Like, so this person feels dominated, but this person has got less feeling and less sensitivity in certain areas. So when this person says, you're making me feel dominated, this person can't even hear it. And then we have these relationships from these opposite sides. And then you get this spectrum, so of all across it. And then the politics as well. It was really interesting watching it. And just how the people sitting on the right side, like just things didn't affect them in any way. And I think this is the same when you go to parties. And then what often happens is two people on the right are like two cats coming together, like a right person, somebody that's on the right wants to find a quiet person that will listen to them. So they don't want to be with another like bashful person. They want to be with someone that will listen to them. So they go and find somebody that will listen to them and like let them have their space. And then that person's overwhelmed by it. It's like, and they can't say no because it's just not in their way of being. They're so much more soft and gentle and different. And then also this person looks out also for the right people because that's what they're used to. And they're used to these big personalities and they feel validated when the other person is enjoying themselves or being an extrovert or being really dramatic. And they feel safe in that environment, ironically. We're funny, aren't we? The way we work. Hi, Raphael. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you all. I can't actually see you, but nice to be here speaking with you all again. But that is the end of the questions today. If you've got any more questions, then please say. My head is sat conveniently in the window, so you're not overwhelmed by the light. Aloha Lisa, welcome back. Hey Carmilla, thank you. I hope you had a nice summer. We have had a hot summer here in Europe. It has been hot. I went up north to try and escape the heat, but it was still hot. And now it's just perfect, the weather here. Well, okay, I think that's the end for this evening. There is no more questions, so I'll finish. I will be back on Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. I don't have any current events to advertise. The only thing that I have to advertise is to remember to like the video if you like the video. So put your thumbs up if you want it to be shared, and for Google not to suppress the video but to share the video, then you have to like it. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a course on chakras. The chakra side of teaching is on the human level. So I do a little bit of talking about non-duality in the course, like at the beginning of every session. And then I would do teaching on chakra, so getting to know your body and on the human level what it is you want or don't want, and what it is that you're attracting and not attracting. I am a believer in like attracts like, so whatever you're vibrating energetically, that's what you're bringing into your life. Okay guys, thank you very much for sharing this time with me. I really appreciate speaking with you and sharing on YouTube, and I shall see you on Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. Thanks guys, bye.